Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am here today to talk about transcripts because we're homeschooling high school, and transcripts are one of our foundational things. So you can never talk about transcripts too often. All right, what we want to talk about today is creating college attractive transcripts for our homeschool high schoolers. So, for teens who are going into a college where they've got to prove their salt, so either they're competing for spaces or for scholarships, they need to have a nice, attractive transcript. So, let's talk about what would go on that transcript. Okay, so there are some important things. So I have, for those of you guys who are watching this on YouTube, I have a sample transcript up on the screen. For those who are listening on the podcast, I'm just going to describe it to you. So, by the way, Seven Sisters has a packet with an editable PDF transcript and step-by-step how-tos on how to create a transcript, what to put on it, and how to determine things so that your homeschool high schooler has the things that they need for whatever their goals are with high school. So you find that at Seven Sisters Homeschool, and I'll put links in the show notes for that. But right now, let's just talk about some things that would go on a transcript. So again, there's not one right way to homeschool high school, or not one right way to create a transcript. Even if you look around at different high schools, all their transcripts are slightly different. So college academic advisors are really used to looking at all kinds of transcripts. But what a transcript is a snapshot of your whole high school, all crammed together on one sheet of paper. So you've got to put a lot of information on that. All right, so number one, the most important thing to put on that transcript is your teen's name and date of birth, because otherwise it's not going to be discernible. There could be 14 teens with the same name. So you've got to have name, date of birth. You can put your home school's name or your umbrella school's name according to what you want to do. You can put that on there. You can put your address, and actually should, because you need to have location, especially for just administrative purposes. They need your address. These days, you can add email and other things like that if you want, but that will be in other places in the application process, so it's not necessary. All right. Then what we recommend also is to include a kind of a snapshot of all 4 years of the transcript. And so what we have is a little section on the transcript that looks at the core subjects that colleges want to know, and they want to know what years your teen took those courses. So language arts, you want to see that each year. So 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, and a total number. Mathematics, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, and a total. Social studies, science, world languages, any kinds of technology or electives. So a very, very just a snapshot. They also want to include a legend or a key that tells what the levels of rigor of your teen's courses are. And we'll talk about that more about that in a minute. And then I have boxed in, make it stand out what the GPA is, what their SAT or ACT score was. And if they have put both scores on there. Not all colleges want to know what SATs and ACT scores are, and they will also receive them from College Board or the ACT, but they very often want to see them as part of the snapshot on the transcript too. So, Also, you want to put on your key the grading scale. So what an A is, 90 to 100 or 92 to 100. What a B is, what a C, a D, or lower than that. So in our case, with our teens, um, this is just, there's not one right way, but our college bound teens, especially, but all of our teens altogether, if they had a D in a course, they did not have mastery of material and they took that course over again. So we did not allow them to get by with D's. They just do it again and get mastery. That's why we're homeschooling. So there's not one right way to do grades. We will talk about that a little bit more in a second. Then underneath that, you want to do a description of each year. So break that transcript down into year, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. Say what courses, what level of credit. So, the level of academic rigor, the amount of credit, so half credit, full credit, and the grade they earned according to the key, what you said their grades were going to be, the grading scale. Then you want to have a box with their activities, their extracurriculars, their service hours, and you can put some description of that, and then any awards that they make. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so that was a quick overview. So what colleges are looking for when they get to this transcript is they're going to look for several things. One of the first things they're going to look at is, does your teen have a solid GPA? So they want to know that your teen was able to work at rigorous levels of academics and pull decent grades, because college very often, especially if teens are applying to a more competitive college, they smart teens are going to, they may have just been able to study a little bit in high school, but when they get to these schools, they are studying a lot. So the colleges want to know your teen's capable of pulling a good, strong GPA in high school so that they can transition well to college. So they want to see good grades, in other words. All right, so let's talk about that GPA for just a minute. So a lot of times when I was doing the academic advising for almost 20 years, parents would ask me, should we weight our GPAs or not? And some high schools have weighted GPAs, some do not. So let me explain that just really briefly, and I'll put links to articles in the show notes as well. So in the traditional GPAs, you have a letter grade like A, and a number assigned to that letter. So A would receive a 4.0, a B would receive a 3.0, a C would receive a 2.0. Some high schools would break that down even further and say, a B plus was a 3.5 and a C plus was a 2.5. So you could break things down in any way you want it to. What we found with our teens, and our teens got, in our local areas, we've advised hundreds and hundreds of teens for several decades, is that if you keep it simple, so use the KISS formula. We didn't do A minus A pluses and all, we just did A, B, C's, because in the end, college advisors know what to look for, and we don't need to kind of get down in the weeds that much. Okay, so that was just our preference. All right, so that's a basic unweighted GPA. A weighted GPA, on the other hand, is for high schools who want to show that their teens are working at very rigorous levels. So they might give a really rigorous course, like an AP course, or a 5.0 for an A instead of a 4.0, because they are rewarding the level of rigor. So a teen with a weighted GPA could have a lot of 5.0s on their transcript, and would look really different than a teen who has an unweighted GPA. So that is why colleges want to know grading scales, and they look at GPAs, and they know by a glance what's weighted and what is not. And so what college admission advisors have to do is they are skilled at this, is they are comparing student to student, and they know that this school is weighted, this is unweighted. So in their algorithm, they unweight the weighted or weight the weighted one, the unweighted ones. And so everybody ends up in the same kind of algorithm. And so that they're comparable. So one of the things, though, that admissions officers want to know as a showing of level of rigor is the actual level of rigor of a course. So rather than worry about the GPA so much, whether you weight it or not, do whatever pleases you. What you want to do is on the transcript itself, show the level of rigor of your students' courses, especially their core courses or the electives that are moving them towards their major. So levels of rigor, or some high schools call it phases, tell how much academic power goes into this course. You know, how much work does a student have to do? So if the way we do it, and the colleges have been very happy with the way we do it, and we describe it in our key on the transcript, is level 1 would be a remedial level. So our teens who are going towards a college will not do remedial courses, but students who have some learning struggles can do their courses, whatever courses they need, at a level 1 remedial level. A level 2 is average. So an average high school student could do this course. A young person going to a competitive college will not work at a level 2, an average level, on any of their competitive, like, core courses or elective courses, and probably don't need to show average electives on their transcript. A level 3 is college prep. So this is much more rigorous than an average course, and clearly is preparing a high schooler for college classroom situations. So these are a lot of textbooks these days are written towards a college prep. And so that most things will take care of that. For students going to a more competitive college, they will want to have at least a good proportion of their courses at level 4 or level 5. So a level 4 is advanced. It's significantly more rigorous than college prep. For our teens, what we would tell them needs to be rigorous. So we would have them do their college prep level plus about half a credit extra. And that would be level 4. So they would be doing like a credit and a half for only a credit's grade. But it looks very powerful. And what we found is that colleges loved it. And of course, we have that explained on our key, so they know what to expect. Level 5 is our honors or AP courses. You can count a lot of dual enrollment courses at level 5. Remember that you cannot call a course an AP course unless it has been approved by the College Board. The College Board owns that term, AP. So don't use it, if it's not used, but you can use honors. So level 5 honors. And for our teens, level 5 honors is the most rigorous, and it's like double the work for 1 credit. And that really, really, really prepared them for the rigors of college, and helped them to really become kind of, like high school level subject matter experts in the courses they took at that level. Colleges loved it. Okay. All right. So, then that was a deeper dive into GPA and some grading stuff. All right. Another thing that colleges are looking for are strong SAT or ACT scores. Now, not all colleges are requiring the SAT or ACT these days. And that's a thing that tends to go in and out of style. So, everybody's requiring it all the time. Oh, some colleges are dropping it. Oh, no, we're going back to requiring it. So, we recommend if teens are going to head for a competitive college, go ahead and take the test. You can always take it again if you are not happy with the scores, but you want to get those on your transcript. And again, those scores will also be sent, from the testing agency, but it's part of the glance, that screenshot of your teen's high school academics. SATs and ACT scores are not just used for admissions, but sometimes are used towards scholarships as well. So even if the college doesn't require it for admission, they might require it for some scholarships. So you check college websites. If there's a college your teen's interested in, go ahead and see what they say. All right. Academic challenge. So, the academic rigor or academic challenge is one of the things that colleges are looking for, especially those that are more competitive schools or state level schools. So make sure they've got most of their courses at least at college prepper level, that level 3, 4, or 5. All right. If there's a course in their major, like if they want to be a science major, they need to make sure that their courses in science are at least advanced or honors. In most, if you're going towards a competitive college. Another thing that colleges are looking for, especially more competitive schools, are academic richness. So the richness can be defined as an in-depth study in areas of interest or an area of a talent, or a wide variety of course topics and personal development. So a richness of different kinds of courses or an in-depth study of courses. So, like a teen who wants to be an English major may not just take like general interest, like a mixture of things each year, but actually use some of their credits to deep dive, maybe do a whole semester or a whole year on like C.S. Lewis studies or world literature. So they'll go in depth on a topic and not just stay at the surface. A science major may take, get your basic biology, chemistry out of the way, and then take advanced biology or marine biology or advanced chemistry. So you want to dive into the areas of interest and show that richness. A breadth kind of richness might be a teen that is not only strong in their core academics, but does electives in like human development and philosophy and computer programming and the music theory or something, so shows a broad exploration of life. They can do personal development like career exploration or really dive into health and make it a rich credit. So those kind of things show academic richness. All right, then very important is you want to include not for credit, but just for richness, and there'll be a box on your transcript to show extracurriculars or activities. So this is important still for colleges who aren't used to homeschoolers yet, and there's still a few out there. But all colleges are interested to know what kind of life your student has lived because they want to know what to expect your teen to bring to the student body. Like they are building a student body. They're sculpting what they want their college to look like. And so they want teens who have been involved and engaged in life. but also it combats the stereotype that homeschoolers are just well-educated misfits that never left the basement for their whole high school years. So what we want to do is show that our teens are involved in something or some things. It helps if you have extracurriculars that are not just one-off events, like volunteer to the museum or something, but are actually involved in things like the homeschool choir or church youth group. Our teens have been involved in sports of different kinds, like our seven sister Kim, whose daughters played hockey all the way through high school. Um, my kids have been involved in orchestras and choirs all the way through high school, and debate teams, and they had their own version of their little like student body that they did with learned public speaking and debate and things like that. So they had lots of different things can count as an extracurricular. So you want to show that on the transcript. One of the things that gives sparkle to a transcript is competition. So if you have your teens involved in any kind of competition, put that on the transcript. They don't have to win. They were just showing competitive drive. And, part of being in college is having some competitive drive. So we'll put links in the show notes to all of these things so you can kind of get more in-depth information. So one of my favorite recent stories that I've heard about a competitive kind of situation is our friend and cousin Natalie Mack. Her son Nathaniel, we interviewed for the podcast, and he had worked for the conservation district in Virginia through a competitive program. So teens had to compete to get into the program. And then they had a year-long training on environment and habitat restoration and things like that. And then they had a project that they did in their own community. So his project was restoring habitat along a nearby creek and planting pollinator garden around that area. So natural pollinator things. And so he did leadership and coordinated volunteers to help out, and did presentations and all kinds of marvelous things. So that was a rich competition that will look great on his transcript. Also, very important on that transcript is service. And so teens who are active and service minded tend to, it's good for mental and physical health, because they're out there generating life and giving back. I mean, that's scriptural, right? But it also looks good on the transcript. So be sure to show how many hours your teens have spent. And keep a log sheet of their service. So again, we'll put links in the show notes for more about that. And you can list some of the kinds of service that they have done, volunteering in the nursery, volunteering at the food bank, just anything that is, especially if there's commitment to it or really big one-off events, that's good. All goes on to the transcript. Okay, so that is a good overview. Make sure if you can, work on that transcript every year so that you're not cramming things together in senior year. That's really hard on a person's constitution. So, work on it, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. All righty. If you've got any questions, join the Seven Sisters Homeschool Facebook group or contact us at info@sevensistershomeschool.com, because you matter. We are all in this together and you can do it. Thanks to Seth Tillman for editing, and we will see you next week.